Leadership. My name is Councillor Anthony Aiken. I represent the local ward of Lara and the northern suburbs of Geelong, and also Deputy Mayor of the City of Greater Geelong at the present time. I was asked by Lara Care Group to actually chair tonight's meeting and assist the running of this evening. So thank you very much for that opportunity. The first speaker is actually Barry White, who probably doesn't need introduction to all of you, but I will introduce him. He is president of the Lara Care Group and has been a passionate advocate for Lara for all these years that he has lived here. It's not just Serendip, there are so many issues which the Lara Care Group have actually lobbied and advocated on behalf of the community of Lara, but certainly over the last 2 to 3 years, Serendip has risen as an issue of significance to the Lara community, and the Lara Care Group has actually done a fantastic job to be an advocate for the community and representing the community voice about Serendip as well too. So with that, I'll actually ask Barry to come forward and thank him for his presentation, and we look forward to the opportunity to actually speak to Al. Barry won't be taking questions, he's actually giving us a presentation, but Alice certainly will be taking questions at the end. Yeah, thank you, Barry.
Thank you very much, Anthony, and once again, welcome to everyone coming along tonight, and particularly to Ella for giving up her time to be here, because this is a very important issue for our community. I'm a bit worried with the lights out. If you're going to go to sleep, please don't sleep. What I'll be talking about is to give just a brief overview of how we've got to the position that we're in today, which is rather tenuous with respect to Serendip, I must say. But I'll also be talking about the planning process that's gone on over the last 2 or 3 years. But I'll be focused, it's on the development of the Yangs Precinct Master Plan. I mean, that's what this whole issue is about, and about Serendip's role within that. But we'll be focusing very much on Serendip because of its importance to our community. I'd like to start, if I could, with a number of videos, short videos, which are actually prepared by Parks Victoria, and I think the importance of them is that these were developed to promote Serendip. One is to do with the wildlife walk and close encounters with wildlife, which has been a key feature of Serendip. The second is about the threatened species breeding program that has been carried out at Serendip very successfully, I might say, in a number of areas. And the third is the fact that it's an all abilities access at Serendip, and that's very important too, to make sure that everybody can participate. So with that, I'd like to just run the 3 videos. They'll run consecutively, and then I'll just get on and talk a little bit about the planning process. I'll try not to bore you too much. A few slides to do with planning, but it is important that you as a community understand what has been going on and what's involved. So with that, if you could have the videos, please.
Welcome to Serendip Sanctuary. On behalf of Parks Victoria, I would like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land, the Wadawurrung people. I'm Vanessa, and I'm an education officer here at Serendip Sanctuary. Serendip is located in Lara, which is just north of Geelong. It's a unique place that features wildlife of the Western Volcanic Plains. Come along on a tour with me, and I'll show you some of these cool animals. This is what Serendip looked like 200 years ago. This whole area was covered in grasslands, and animals like potoroos and bandicoots would have hopped around this whole area. When the European settlers arrived in Australia, they farmed lots of these areas, and today not a lot of this habitat remains. Serendip is all about caring for and breeding threatened species. The Cape Barren goose was one of the first birds that was bred in captivity at Serendip, and now it's back in the wild. Another unique grassland species that lives at Serendip is the Australian bustard. They are very rare. It's estimated there's only 20 of them left in the wild. Humans have impacted on their habitat, and foxes prey upon bustards. Here at Serendip, we've got a breeding program for the bustard. Emus live in grassland areas, and they feed on grasses and insects. In autumn, the female will lay up to 15 eggs. Only the male sits on the eggs, and once the eggs hatch, only the male will care for the young up to 1.5 years of age. Despite us taking away their habitat, kangaroos are common. They can hop up to 70 k's an hour and have great jumping skills. Grasslands are an important habitat for some of our smaller animals as well. Come have a look at our bearded dragon. As you can tell, he's got some really cool features. He's got a grey collar that will blend in with its environment, so he's really well camouflaged. You can see that it's got spikes on the side of its body. When something tries to attack the bearded dragon, they stick out their spikes and they also puff up their beard, and they look quite ferocious. The tawny frogmouth is the star of this enclosure. It's not an owl, it doesn't have a strong beak and strong talons. It's got a weak beak to catch moths at night time. Tawny frogmouths are masters of disguise. They sit very still in trees and they freeze and look like a branch. Another animal that camouflages really well is the bushstone curlew. When something approaches the curlew, it will sit very still on the ground and it looks just like a log. Now, unfortunately, that doesn't work with our introduced predators, cats and foxes, because they will still find the curlew using their sense of smell. In Victoria, curlews are a threatened species. That's why here at Serendip, we breed this animal to make sure it's still around in future. We are very lucky to have a spotted-tailed quoll at the sanctuary. The spotted-tailed quoll is the largest carnivore marsupial that we still have on mainland Australia. It's a close cousin to the Tasmanian devil. In Victoria, there's lots of different types of wetlands. At Serendip, you can find natural wetlands that are filled with rainwater, but there's also man-made wetlands here that have water all year round. Now, the benefit of that is when wetlands dry up in Victoria over summer, Serendip has lots and lots of bird life. This is our brolga. You can tell that it's a wetland bird by looking at its features. It's got long legs made for wading through water, and when it sees something in the water, with its long beak it will snatch it and feed on it. So it feeds on fish, yabbies, frogs and little bugs. This is the marshland bird hide, and it's a really unique spot. It's a great place to sit quietly and observe the bird life outside. We're at Serendip's Wildlife Waterhole. This waterhole features a beautiful wetland, gorgeous plants. There's white-faced herons, freckled ducks and buff-banded rails in here. Thanks to support from the local community, especially the Lions Club of Lara and the Lara branch of the Bendigo Bank, this waterhole was recently rejuvenated. Thanks for joining me on a wildlife tour at Serendip Sanctuary. These tours are normally run by passionate volunteers. Serendip's a real treasure. It's right near Geelong and Melbourne, so I hope to see you here back sometime. You can come and visit. We're open 7 days a week, or come on a guided tour every weekend over summer. The park is free to visit. For more information, please visit Parks Victoria's website.
Serendip Sanctuary is a unique place in which we can serve lots of native wildlife, including threatened species such as the eastern barred bandicoot. Hi, my name's Brandon. I'm the wildlife ranger here at Serendip Sanctuary on Wadawurrung country. Serendip Sanctuary is an important place for wetland and grassland species, an hour's drive from Melbourne. We are part of the Western Volcanic Plains, which are known for their rich soils, grassy plains and many threatened species. My role here at Serendip Sanctuary is to provide technical advice to the team in efforts to conserve some of our threatened species that we find here in Victoria. Magpie geese, Australian bustards and brolgers are just some of the threatened species that we have captive bred and created important insurance populations for at Serendip. But one of our best conservation success stories is the captive breeding of the eastern barred bandicoot. We provide a framework for these animals to breed, and eventually their offspring will be used in conservation programs where they're directly released back into the wild. The eastern barred bandicoot is a small ground-dwelling marsupial typically found within woody grassland habitat. This animal is known to be mostly an insectivore. A bandicoot living in the wild will typically live for about 3 to 4 years. The eastern barred bandicoot has been classified as extinct on mainland Australia for quite some time. We've been very fortunate in our lifetime to see that this classification has now changed to critically endangered. This has been due to the efforts of a number of organisations, including Zoos Victoria, and a lot of other strong, tireless hours put in by volunteer groups and other existing stakeholders. Serendip's involvement over the past decade has been to provide this safe space for breeding and retirement of eastern barred bandicoots. In just the past 5 years, we've been able to successfully breed around 16 individual animals, most of them being released back into the wild. Part of our role is to perform health checks on all of our animals on a monthly basis, in particular the eastern barred bandicoot. During this process, we ensure that we check their weight first and foremost. It's a really good indicator of their overall health. And we also check their teeth, their eyes, their skin, the levels of dehydration, and anything else that we deem significantly important. During this process, we're able to get really up close and personal, which is a really special experience. Victoria's grasslands and the species that rely on them, like the eastern barred bandicoot, have faced significant threats over time, such as land clearing and habitat loss. Feral animals such as foxes and cats have had a huge impact through predation on these animals. Science and geography are critical components of Parks Victoria's approach to conservation. Some of the ways that we ensure that we deliver in this space is by recording data and monitoring individual animals in our outdoor holding areas. We also control introduced predators to protect the eastern barred bandicoot, and we work on restoring and enhancing existing habitat here at the sanctuary to provide a better space for these animals to live. It's really important that we protect and conserve our threatened species. So many species are interconnected and really provide purpose for other species that we find in this ecosystem. Bandicoots are considered landscape engineers and are able to really enhance the values of a given habitat. So without something as critical as the eastern barred bandicoot, we may find ourselves in a position where other species begin to face the same threats and pressures that this one does. As we know, the climate is changing, and as severe storms and megafires become more common, sanctuaries like Serendip will play an important role as natural refuges. Since European settlement, Victoria has lost over 99% of its native grasslands, so sanctuaries are crucial for the survival of our grassland species. Serendip not only plays a role as a wildlife refuge, it's also a park with strong community involvement. Involving the community is really important because we need everyone to understand what issues our native grasslands face. We encourage people to visit Serendip and learn about our special ecosystems and share this appreciation with others by joining one of our school excursions or volunteering to help us with animal husbandry or land management. You can even sign up to our Discovery Guides programs to teach other visitors about the importance of the park. I strongly encourage students to get out there and understand what opportunity is available in your own local community. Try and understand what threatened species you may have in your own backyard and really get involved.
Education is the key to understanding and preserving our unique native animals. This sanctuary is enlightening, it's free, and it's ideal for visitors with all abilities. it's also a pretty relaxing day out. If you need a reminder of how unique our Australian birds and animals are, you've come to the right place. I'm Ryan and I'm with Soraya here at Serendip Sanctuary in Lara. This is an accessible wildlife and education park, so let's say g'day to some of our Aussie friends. Serendip Sanctuary is in Lara, 60 kilometres west of Melbourne. And before we start to explore, I want to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land on which this is filmed, the Wadawurrung, and pay respects to their elders, past, present and emerging. Soraya and I are here to check out the Wildlife Walk. It's just one of the 5 All Abilities walks here at Serendip. There's parking for disabled visitors near a large picnic area, which is complete with tables and barbecues, and there's a unisex accessible toilet here too. This conservation and education centre sits on 250 hectares and houses more than 100 native animals. Some are endangered and bred here for conservation. We head past the classroom and into the first enclosure. This open area is home to emus, Cape Barren geese and reptiles, and there's some kangaroos here that kept an eye on us as we made our way round the path. Further around, we pass through a set of gates. Now these aren't as heavy as they might look. We've come into the marshland area. This is where brolgas, ibis, cockatoos, coots and ducks and other species call home or come to visit. The path here is wide, it's flat gravel and the railing offers a clear view. There's a bird observation hide with viewing areas that have been designed for everyone and it provides a good view from a wheelchair. We pass the bird hides and make our way down a ramp that leads to the Padamelon walkthrough. This endangered shy creature, which looks a little bit like a small wallaby, made a surprise cameo appearance. We continue through the double doors that open up into the aviaries. The curlews here, who always look as though they're frowning, stare at us wide-eyed as they feed on crickets and insects. We're surrounded by native birds of all descriptions, and they're not bothered as they go about their business. We watch them and they watch us right back. The aviary has a hard dirt path and there's a small step into the second section. The doors and gates at Serendip aren't heavy to push and they offer easy access from one enclosure to the next. The Australian bustards have a large space to accommodate and they too enjoy their lunch of crickets. We follow the path back to the picnic area for a lunch of our own. At one of the many picnic tables, we have something to eat and reflect on the characters we've met. For the protection and conservation of animals, it's important to learn about them and see them in their environment. And that's exactly what Serendip Sanctuary does. It's an ideal way to engage kids and remind adults of the unique animals that we have in this country. Come down to Serendip Sanctuary, it's completely free and the centre caters for visitors of all abilities.
Okay, well, the point about that is that is what Serendip has been in the past, and I should point out that many, if not most, of the wildlife that you saw there, the native birds and animals, have now been removed, they've gone. And I think it's really destroyed the very essence of what Serendip has had to offer. And that's something we want to talk about tonight.